Hello everyone, it's Joe here from OmniPoke, the channel that brings you guys everything Pokemon. If you're looking for PTCGO codes, including the stuff from Paldea Evolved, make sure you check out the Potown store. You can get a 5% discount on your orders using that code OmniPoke. For today's video, we are going to be looking at the Japan Championships 2023. Now this actually happened on the 10th of June. I've waited as long as possible, I think, to try and get the full results, but we're going to work with what we have. And that is to say, a good amount of Mew, including the winning deck being a Fusion Mew, as well as a couple Gardy and a good amount of Tina and Lost Zone in here as well. Unfortunately, we don't have that full top 16 breakdown, couldn't find it anywhere, but we'll do the best with what we have and have a look at the breakdown. This was an almost 2,000 player tournament, so always good to take a look at these results, see how these lists are doing so well in these tournaments, and yeah, give us a good bit of insight for the NAIC and World. So we'll start off with Fusion-based build of Mew, and I think already people are cottoning on that Fusion is kind of the safer way to play Mew right now, and that's because Spiritomb, yeah, that one that's banned on live, will otherwise completely cancel out your Genesect. So using Fusion Energy will unlock your Genesects to continue to use Fusion Strike system. Now, the winning list actually played an additional tech card in the Ice Queue, so you can block slide and try and snipe down that Spiritomb and just completely take it out of play. The list is also playing double Lost City, so you can get rid of it for good as early as turn 1, which is pretty exceptional, seeing as though this is a go-to tech card for many. It's an easier include in a lot of situations than Drapion, and now we have an easy answer to it. I think the benefits of Ice Cube don't really stop there, though, because it can then force Gardy players and chien-pao players to develop Manaphy in those opening stages to sort of respect you, in that otherwise you can target down early Ralts, early Curlier, early Freaky Backs, and these things are really scary getting knocked out early on, especially with Lost City in the list again. So the Ice Cube really can put on that pressure even against single prize decks, which I think is really massive, and force Manaphy into play, which is something that you never really want to do as any deck. So adding in that spread potential changes how players have to play against Mew, which I think is pretty strong. You still have that one-hit KO early game pressure potential from the double Sparkle, but the triple Forest Seal Stones try and make that happen. And outside of that, it's a very conventional setup that we have going on here. Quite heavy on the tools with the one cleansing as well as double choice belts. And because of the choice to go towards Lost City, we're not seeing the Echoing Horn, which is sometimes something you'll see in the build. I think you sometimes have to change up your stadium count if you want to incorporate the Horn to good effect, because you're sort of conflicting with your own city. You might just have to like end up vacuuming away your own stadiums to actually put things in the discard pile rather than the Lost Zone, which is something you could do because Echoing Horn is a good card in this deck list, but I feel like it's more mandatory for DTE-based builds, whereas we can still reach that higher damage output when need be with the quad fusion turns, especially if we have gone first. So yeah, seems like a very solid way to play Mew, and probably is going to be the way we have to expect players to be playing their list. I think there will be some DTE Mews around, especially this really interesting one in top 4. But I think Fusion will now be the most popular variant that you have to expect going into a Mew matchup. Second place was Gardy, and case in point, this Gardy was playing the Spiritomb, this tech card that turns off basic V Pokemon's abilities. Very good, of course, for that Genesect, but not always good enough, especially because it can be sniped down early, and the Fusion Energy is still, you know, unlocking the Genesects as you go. But this is still causing a headache and a frustration to Mew players. They need to have slightly more specific hands, I guess, to just get into the game in the first place. So this still is a valid tech card and can improve your matchup. Other than this tech, seems like a very, very cookie-cutter Gardy list. Couple interesting things to note. There are no workers or pal pad in here, just sort of higher counts of boss instead, and a 4 copy of stadium count, including artisan as a 2 count, just to help you get into the game, get your non-rule box basics out as quickly as possible. Obviously, Mews, Ralts, and Manaphy all sort of take that role early on. Very good cards to get into play and get rolling in the game. So yeah, seems nice that you're adding to your overall path bounce out while still adding to your turn 1 good card options, which is always good. The other thing that I think is really interesting is no reversal energy whatsoever. So even though we're playing a 2-1 split of Gardy this way round, not having that reversal, like bounce back potential, not having the Gardy as potentially an attacking threat against Lost Box so easily. Sometimes you can still get there with just like Shining Arcana, Turn Attachments, and Moonglow reversing, but it's a lot slower to get online rather than just like Candy up Brainwave thanks to a reversal combo. So yeah, a bit of a surprise to see no reversal energy. It's such a powerful card in general, but that is something that's sort of omitted from this list. So just something to monitor going forward, I suppose. Just ramping up Psych Energy is still very powerful and still the main priority of Guardi players, of course. In top 4, we have a DTE-based build of Mew, but not really as you know it. We are still playing that Heavy Judge and Iono plus Path combination, but only a couple copies of Path, and that's because we're adding in some pretty wacky attackers. First of all, a Drapion as a Mirror Tech card, but also the Luxray plus Reversal combo has made it into Mew now, so that you can hit for that key weakness of Lugia and of Palkia, of course, to get a one prize up trade and sort of skew that race. It's something the DTE build hasn't really had until now, so giving yourself that option is really interesting, so you're not just constantly having to leap as much as possible and always not have a 3-prizer in play. Now you can try and have a Luxray turn to skew that prize race, which I think is super interesting, and it just is testament to how powerful the Luxray is. A few things to note here. This deck isn't playing VIP Cram, and I think that makes a few things more difficult. First of all, I think your opening turns are kind of sketchier because the power spike of hitting VIP Pass just unlocks Genesect so often. Also, we're kind of playing weird cards, and like 4 Featherball as a replacement doesn't sound that great because there are diminishing returns by finding these Mews over and over again, especially in those opening turns. But also, I think it actually makes the Luxray package harder to come off because you can't shoot it out the other piece if you have one in the hand. You obviously have Ultra Ball Search for Lux, but the reversal's kind of hard to find, I think. So that's a bit of a weird one for me. Let me know your thoughts on no VIP Cram. It's been what we've known for so long, and it feels like a no-brainer to me. But this has gone a completely different direction, which is kind of strange to see, honestly. I can't say that I like it, because I think VIP is just so core to so many decks right now, but there we have it. A few other interesting cards. We're playing the Collapse, which can be some nice offsetting for Lost Box as well. Has the Echoing Horn in here, so, and the Silene even, to maybe make some more intricate combos happen. So really interesting deck. I should also note as well, it is playing the 1 Fusion Energy. I assume this is just in here to unlock your Genesect, but I suppose Reversal can also be attached to your Mew VMAX just to count as a single colorless energy, so you can go Reversal Fusion on a Mew as an attacking threat as well. It doesn't just have to be onto your Luxray, so couple things to note there. But yeah, really interesting build. I think it's testament to how strong of a card Luxray is in this metagame. If you are expecting a lot of chien-pao and a lot of Lugia, this is going to be a powerful card, so definitely one to experiment with. I feel like it may have gone one step too far with its ball search count, but look how far it got into a tournament with that search. Yeah, I just can't get my head around it. On to Giratina then. This is a really nice build of Giratina. Seems fairly straightforward. The Temple of Sinnoh has a lot of upsides. Obviously, V-Guard energy is massive in Lugia and against Arc Tina builds. It can also be nice against Gift energy, so it seems like a great thing to shut off. But Path is still the sort of main stadium that we see with Giratina. I think the count that stands out as like a question mark is the 4-3 counter Giratina. Very thick on these counts. Personally, I like this becoming a Nest Ball or just becoming another Rope. You already have a really high Jet Energy count, so you still can get in there and use that Abyss Seeking very often in your opening turns. So it is surprising to me to see such a high count of Giratina, but I have seen this in a couple of Japanese deck lists, so it's not the first time it's actually come up, and it's not something that I necessarily agree with, especially when you have rods now, so you can just add to the Nest Ball counts. It seems weird to me. I don't really understand it too much, but hey-ho. Abyss Seeking is a pretty strong attack. The more I play Tina, the more I respect the Abyss Seeking side of this deck, and how it can help you ramp your zone, but also get towards that gate as quickly as possible. We see another Giratina, and this one is also playing the 4-3 line, so again, just reinstating that could be a thing. I don't know why. It doesn't make sense for it to not be a Nest Ball, though. Outside of, like, mulling slightly less. It's so weird to play these counts, right? To not have the option of Flower selecting the opening stages to just increase your counts of that. It's so strange. The Spiritomb is a tech card that we can't play thanks to PTCGL, but yeah, is solid for the Mew matchup. The two lists that I saw weren't playing Cleansing Gloves. I still really like Cleansers as that sort of catch-all. Seems like a very good card against Guardy, very good card against Mew. So that's my personal preference, but the Tomb is obviously targeting one that little bit more hard. That little bit harder, I should say. And can also have benefits at like stopping Lumineon and stuff against like chien-pao and Lugia, so that's obviously very solid. You're also seeing the 3-path to really drive home this is a very solid stadium in the deck. The double Roxanne as well, I do feel like this is a pretty solid option. The gear has been made space for as well over some of these switching cards. Quite low on the switch outs overall, but the Jets come in clutch in the deck these days. We have the only Lost Box that we know of in top 8, and it's going to be a Skyseal Stone build, so trying to uptrade into those V-Stars and V-Maxes, of course. They're still everywhere. One thing that I think is super interesting is that it's incorporating Snorlax and some Jet Energies now to try and make this Thump a slightly more reasonable option, but also Jet just being a very good card in the opening stages to start ramping that Lost Zone. I do think there's some anti-synergy with this build, because typically you want to turn attach plus Gate onto these Pokemon. It's fine on Snorlax, I suppose, but it seems a lot worse on the Dragonite specifically, because you need 2 Water and Lightning, so you'd have to find double Gate if your turn attachment is commit to the Jet Energy, so it feels like it's sometimes counter-synergistic. But yeah, I'm not really too sure on this one. There's a pretty interesting supporter lineup. I know Raihan often finds its way in these deck lists alongside Skyseal, so that makes sense. Still playing the Clara, even though we have options to Super Rod, and with Artisan in here as well. Sometimes Rod Artisan is a bit of a sort of mid-game combo you can go for, but still choosing to play Clara for some instant recovery, and has the Roxanne for some hand disruption, which is pretty solid. Even opting to play the Palpad, which is something you don't always see with a deck list like this. That's another thing to really bear in mind. Quite high on the boss count as well, so some really interesting counts going on overall compared to what we know about Lost Box as of late. And just a quick note on the Artisan, I've really sort of gone one way then the other with Artisan in Lost Zone box decks, because this essentially donates the opponent the option to get their own Manaphy down against you, and seeing as though Greninja is so big in so many matchups, I really feel like the Artisan isn't really a stadium you want to put down in the opening stages, unless it's on the turn when you already guarantee that you get to 7, because then you're already doing your Greninja play before their Manaphy is even developed. So it's that really weird middle ground of like being a great card mid-game for you to like Rod and recycle Sableye, Rod, recycle Manaphy, those sorts of things. And it's okay if you go second and know that you're hitting the nuts and getting to 7, but this is so hard to get to 7 with this list because it's not playing those vacuums, so you have to kind of like hold off on it on the opening turn, which makes me really skeptical of it being better than Pokegear, or no, sorry, Pokestop, or being better than Beach Courts. I feel like it's just the stronger option in this exact list, so I feel like Artisan is somewhat a bait in this list because you're so reliant on Greninja taking prizes for you that yeah, donating a Manaphy easily for the opponent just sounds not great to me. Let me know your thoughts. Overall, I feel like more often than not we're going to see Turbo Lost Box compared to the Skyseal Stone, or even just like that Thanos build with multi-stones going on. But yeah, definitely an interesting take on Lost Box. We have one more Giratina rounding out this top 8. And again, similar story really. This looks like the most similar to the one that I was playing on the channel just yesterday. I think I just wasn't playing Spiritomb and was playing one less Iono, and it was yeah, just a couple cards different. I played the gloves and I played the third Rod. I think those are the only changes. Oh, I play Hisuian and just 3 nests, so yeah, 3 cards away from what I was playing on the channel, so if you want to check out that. Actually, no, it's more cards because I only played 1 crown, but yeah, you get the idea. It's pretty close to what we've been seeing a few times over here. And finally, this one's playing 3 Tina and 4 Nespal. Finally, someone's brave enough to do that. We have the Guardy list that I'm most impressed by in the top 16 as well, because this just looks really neat, tidy, and like no wasted space whatsoever. This is what I expect to be the vanilla shell of Guardy going into NAIC, actually, because we have that 3-1 split of Ralts, which I think is just still fine always. We have the 2-1 of Guardian 1 Zacian now, because we are playing the 1 copy of Reversal to help push the Guardy's damage output. We're playing the Worker Palpad package, and we're playing a 3 count of stadiums to add to our sort of path bounce options, including the Collapsed, so we can get rid of our 2 prize Pokemon when need be, the Artisan just to be a consistency buff, and the 1 Temple of Sinnoh, which unfortunately doesn't work on live right now, but it's a great way to deny gift energy activations, and in some cases, like V-Guard energy, so Zacian can power through certain things with less psychics required. So seems like a very, very good shell for Gardy. Overall, this looks like what I would think is the vanilla 60. So if anyone just wants to be testing Gardy in this format right now, this would be what I expect most people to be rocking, with possibly like 1 or 2 card differences. Not everyone's playing the Temple. Obviously online you can't play with this, so you can just turn this into an Artisan or turn it into a Fog Crystal. But otherwise, this is looking like the cookie cutter list, and I think for good reason. It ticks like pretty much every box, doesn't have much wasted space whatsoever, is respecting path, has the option for power spikes with reversal energy. Just a very powerful list overall, really like it. And then we have, the last list that we have is just another build of Fusion Mew. Couple differences from the winning list, obviously not playing that Ice Cue, is instead playing Oricorio. Sometimes that offsetting of math is definitely relevant to push that Mew out of 310 range, which a lot of cards actually do look for, especially Giratina in Arc, Tina, and Lost Tina will sometimes look for that key damage threshold, so Oricorio blocking that is obviously very powerful. And outside of that, not too different from the list that we previously had seen. This one is incorporating the Echoing Horn, and is playing the triple switch card to try and be a little bit disruptive against Lost Zone players, I suppose, for some health recovery, of course. So yeah, more of the same. Fusion Mew just really establishing itself once again in this format for being the go-to way to play Mew. Let me know your thoughts on the deck list today. Let me know your thoughts on the wacky build of Mew. Do you ever think you can see yourself playing without VIP and Cram in Mew? It's been so long since we've even considered that as a possibility. I'll hear your thoughts down below, and I'll see you tomorrow for another video. Cheers.